What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. With me today is a dude that I literally grew up with, another one of the Manchester people that I've had on. He was a stud athlete in high school, continued it throughout college, and take a quote from Terrell Owens. Man, he's my quarterback. It's my boy, my man. He's from Odyssey Real Estate Group, started up his own business. Anthony Palmiotto, what's up, dude?
Cuesta, I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. Palm, any social media tags you want to talk about your real estate group real quick at all? Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to follow me, I'm generally on Instagram, AntPalm8, ANTPALM number 8. And my business is Odyssey Real Estate Group. We buy and manage apartment buildings throughout New Jersey, and that's Odyssey Real Estate grp.com. You could check that out there if you want to learn more about that. And yeah, man, that's me. I'm going to need you to explain to my girlfriend what you just said about me being a stud athlete, because my girlfriend's Russian and she has no idea what football is and she could care less. And so the fact that I ever played any sports is of zero value to our relationship. So,
well, yeah, just so she knows, your girlfriend, what's your girlfriend's name? Why the hell don't I even know that, Ant?
Probably because nobody can pronounce it first go. It's Ekaterina.
Is there a nickname?
Yeah, Katya.
Katya. Okay, so Katya. So what you need to know about Ant and what you need to know about American football is it's a sport that gives a lot of people head injuries and they want to end it in the United States. But no, in terms of you being a stud athlete, you played baseball, which I don't think they care about. You played football, which they definitely don't care about. You played a lot of sports that they really don't give a single shit about in Russia.
That's absolutely true. And she doesn't even care about NHL hockey, so it's not even like we got that going. So
does she like soccer at least? I know you don't, but does she?
No, not into sports, She is from literally Siberia. She's the coolest person I ever met. She came here with no money, no English 6 years ago. Now she's a citizen. She's absolutely killing it. But she does not care about football. So I'm glad someone still remembers that I did that back in the day.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I still look back. Some of the pictures pop up on like Facebook, the ones that I stole from your dad and just threw on Facebook years ago. And it brings back some fun memories, especially maybe not offensively, because even though you were good, our offense didn't really click until like the game 5, 6, 7. We rolled off a few our senior year, but our defense, I think of the secondary we had, man, we were friggin' awesome.
Nobody was passing on us. That was for sure. It's funny that you mentioned my dad's pictures, because he was an avid photographer, but like just an amateur. And he would basically just walk down on the field, and he had like the big camera with the big lens, so it looked like he was press or something. And he would just tell Lister like, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to take some pictures," and just go over the fence and just stand on the sidelines next to the team and get all these great pictures. So we do have some cool memories, going back to those times.
Yeah, we definitely do, and that's going to roll right in because. As I've stayed an avid sports fan, I know you have stayed an avid sports fan. You have always loved sports. We always had good conversations about sports all throughout high school. And from what I remember and from what you want to talk about, I could have been having sports conversations with a good buddy of yours who was supposed to be my roommate at Marist College. I had communication, Gary Fair. Talked to him. We talked about the whole college crap. Well, you're going to bring a refrigerator. I got the microwave, blah, 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 blah. And then like 2 weeks or a week beforehand, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not your roommate.
Dude, it's such a funny story, and it's such a small world. So Gary and I are now like best friends, and we're business partners. We started Odyssey Real Estate Group. And the funny thing is we both transferred to TCNJ for the spring semester. So we both spent fall semester somewhere else. We transferred to TCNJ to play baseball. And we became best buddies because we kind of transferred in at the same time. But the really ironic part about it was, as you just alluded to, he was supposed to be your roommate at Marist College. If he didn't go to TCNJ, that's where he was going to go. And what's weirder is that if I didn't go to TCNJ, I was going to go to Marist College. And obviously,
I remember that.
Yeah, we were high school buddies. And so maybe we would have been roommates, likely. If we weren't, we obviously would have hung out and been friends.
Yeah.
So whether or not Gary and I did it the way we did it, or if the other way happened, I would have met Gary anyway, which is really strange when you think about it. What a coincidence that was.
And it wouldn't have been funny if you would have ended up coming to Marist and then you guys hated each other. That wouldn't.
No, well, you're right, because when I first met him, I did hate him because, and I'll tell you this, we were playing Madden football. That's how we met. He said, "You want to come over? We'll play some Madden." That's just like total bro thing to do. And this guy is such a cheater. All he does is like this is spring of 2008. So whatever year that was in Madden, we were playing 07 or 08.
This is how business partners talk about each other. Look at this. This is America right here.
Questa, he would just be the Patriots, and he would just throw a go route to Randy Moss every time. I don't remember what year of Madden this was, and it was a touchdown because no defense could keep up with him. And I was like, dude, you're not good at Madden. You just keep cheating. And I would play as the Jets because they were my team. And they were, it was no contest. So I actually did hate him at first. So, and it's funny how that turns out.
That was the year that Randy Moss and Terrell Owens were cheat codes. All you had to do was just throw a 3-step fade every single time, and you would get like the 50 yards at least or a touchdown. That year was broken. That year was completely broken.
Oh my God. And then for those who don't know, Gary's the guy who stands up in your face, like pointing at you saying, dude, you just got burnt. I'm like, what an asshole. And, 10 years later, we're business partners, and, he's one of my best friends in the world. So all good stuff.
I hope you guys play Madden in the office.
Dude, we haven't played Madden in a long time. That's actually pretty funny you bring it up.
So that's what I'm saying. Gary, challenge him to a game. Do like the all Patriots team, include Randy Moss, and just make him relive college nightmares.
Yeah, that's no, I don't need him gloating like that. So
So speaking of football, you talk about Madden. Madden is NFL football. First thing I want to touch on is tomorrow night. Right now it's February 15th. That's when we're recording this. But tomorrow night, Saturday, Sunday, one of those 2 days, the Alliance of American Football will be back. And I thought that they had a really good week one. I tried to watch all 4 games. I watched the first 2. I had one on TV, the other one streaming on my phone. And then on Sunday, I watched one of the 2 games completely. And my impression was that it was really good in terms of the beginning product. The speed of the game is something I was scared about. I thought I was going to see like super low-level college speed. Definitely wasn't. It was pro speed. The talent was there. What are your impressions of the AAF?
So I'll be honest, I didn't watch the games live. It did not, and I think that's probably pretty typical of most football fans. I skipped. I said, let me see what this is all about, and it didn't pique my interest enough to watch live. So I went back. I watched all the highlights, and I generally agree with what you're saying. I mean, I thought it was real football. I thought the speed looked up to par for where you'd expect it to be for professional football, and I think they put out a pretty decent product. The way they set this league up, though, is really interesting to me in the sense that, like, February, as we know, is like the worst month for sports, right? You're waiting for April for baseball. Football's over. College basketball is not really heated up yet. There's just nothing going on. It's not a good month. So they're doing it at the right time, I think. And I don't think they can ever exist as competitors to the NFL, but I think they've kind of branded themselves as a complement to the NFL, and I think that's exactly what they could be. And I think there's enough room for them to exist. And I think with the product they put out on the field, I did watch the highlights of all the games. Based on what I saw, I'm going to watch this weekend, and I think it's something that a lot of other football fans probably feel the same way.
So I'm telling you right now, I'm recruiting you. You got to be an Orlando Apollos fan. And here's why. Because they are the Jets affiliate team. Now, one thing that the AAF did, now I've talked about the AAF going back 3 months now at least, and I've been trumpeting it on this podcast because all the spring leagues, I've been trying to analyze that. We have the AAF that's here now. XFL is coming next year, along with the Freedom Football League, which is started by Ricky Williams and Terrell Owens. So we're going to have 3 spring leagues competing at the same time starting next year. So it's going to be exciting in terms of that. But the one thing about the AAF that I really like, as I mentioned, they have affiliate teams with the NFL teams. And they also have an affiliate team in the CFL and also regional in terms of the college teams. And that's how they draft their players. That's how they keep their pools fresh. And the guys that are in it are a bunch of football guys. They're former NFL guys, former college guys, CFL, dudes that used to run NFL Europe. So they understand what it's like to make kind of a D league. And that's exactly how they're treating it. No one's going to be penalized if they leave to go to the NFL next year, which I think is a model for success, especially early success for this team, for this whole entire league.
Well, look, it's free markets, right? So we're going to have 3 different football leagues. They're all going to do it 3 different ways, and the cream's going to rise to the top. We're going to see what works. Eventually, the other leagues will probably get folded into that one, get bought out, and you're going to get overall over the next 5-10 years, we're going to get a better product. It's going to get refined over time. And I think they're off to a good start, though. And I agree with everything you said. One thing I'll tell you is I'm not going to be a fan of Memphis or whatever team it was that Christian Hackenberg plays for. I don't know,
Jesus.
10 for 26 or whatever that was. I mean,
86 yards. 86 yards for a full game. And they have Zach Mettenberger. I don't know if Zach Mettenberger's hurt, but if he's not, put him in. He had some NFL success. He had like a few good games in the NFL.
I mean, it's just like, you think Mike McCagnon's embarrassed about that one? It's like, Jesus, that was brutal. But yeah. So you know what? I'll jump on. What was it? And I don't even know all the teams yet. It's Orlando. Is the Jets?
Orlando Apollos. Yeah, there's Orlando Apollos, Birmingham Iron, San Diego Fleet, San Antonio has a team. Who else? Atlanta has a team, which is the team that Orlando just beat up on.
Right.
Memphis has a team. Who am I leaving out? Arizona has a team, and I think I might be leaving out one more, but it's 8 teams, and it's exciting football. Now, one thing I want to get your opinion on with this, I have a few things left with the AAF, but one thing is, right now they are happy being a D-League. The commentary is doing a very good job of highlighting the pro experience of every single guy that they have, and basically how they are, kind of complimenting, like you said, trying to be a complement to the NFL. One thing I can see going on is as this talent level continues to rise and as the popularity continues to rise, I feel like they may eventually try to do their own draft and something like that where they start to get these guys who are talented enough. They make money. They're all making $250,000, 3-year, $250,000 contracts with a boatload of incentives. So I can definitely see this being a stay league and a league that eventually grows into a mini competitor to the NFL. I don't think it's ever going to be the USFL, but I think it could be something similar where they are having their own draft instead of just kind of pulling from NFL teams. Do you think that is a possibility at all?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but you got to remember with so many outlets now from media, a lot of these companies are like starved for content. You know what I mean? There's so many ways to watch games and access things. It's not like you have to sit in front of your TV only on Sundays anymore to get football. Now you can do it in the spring. You can do it on, mobile. There's just so many more ways to watch a game that having more football, I think, is ultimately going to be a good thing. And there definitely is going to be room for these teams to grow. Like I said, it's going to take these 3 leagues to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. And eventually, I think one will absorb the other, or vice versa. And at some point, I could see that in the future, maybe being some sort of competitor to the NFL because, listen, the NFL's problem, in my opinion, is that, when you have a juggernaut like that, to make big changes in the NFL, it's like trying to turn a cruise ship, right? Everything's like slow, and by the time they get with what's going on, they're not so nimble where these young leagues can be. And I think that's a huge advantage. So I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm really interested to see how it plays out over the next 5 or 10 years. Would I be totally shocked if 5 years from now there's no other spring football leagues? I can't say I would be, but I'm definitely rooting for them.
Yeah, as of now, I really like the AAF. I'm excited for the XFL because Vince wants to do it right. He's not going to make it the clown league that he had before. Yeah. He wants to make it real football. I don't know enough about the Freedom League. That's the newest one. It was announced this year, so I don't know what they're going to be. They still have to figure out their full model. But I want to bring this because a guy that I think would work in the Freedom League is one Colin Kaepernick, who it came out. There was some news about him yesterday and today. Yesterday it came out that he wanted $20 million to play in the AAF, a league that wasn't giving any of their players more than a 3-year, $250,000 deal. Everyone got it across the board with incentives. And then it comes out today that him and Eric Reed accepted a agreement with the NFL in their collusion deal, which depending on whose side you're on, you're kind of looking at it for a victory for whatever side. Few things with Kaepernick. Is he ridiculous for requesting that from a G League? And also, will he play NFL football now that this is kind of over?
Yeah, so by the way, this is coming from a guy who says it's not about the money, right? And he wants $20 million from the startup league. So I don't know, that was totally ridiculous. The collusion thing was really interesting, right? He had filed a grievance about the leagues, colluding against him. But if you look at the terms of the settlement, and he got a big payday. We don't know exactly what it was, but multi-millions of dollars, probably tens of millions of dollars, if I had to guess. But
it's not about the money, though.
It's not about the money. But here's the thing: the condition on which they made that settlement was that neither side can talk about it. So he felt so wronged by the NFL that he decided to settle, take the money, and then can't embarrass the NFL for what he alleges they did to him. So for a guy who says it's not about the money and it's about spreading his message, he just voluntarily silenced himself. And so to me, that was a bad, I mean, so listen, he won. Don't get me wrong. He won because he got paid. The NFL kind of had to put their tail between their legs and I think did a little bit of damage control here. And so I think Cap comes out ahead. But for a guy to say it's not about the money and then do something like that, I don't know. The way I'm looking at it is like, now you can't speak about it. You just kind of ruin your own point. What do you think?
Yeah, one thing I do have to say about Cap is somebody smart probably got in his ear and went to him and said, listen, you're working out every day. You look like you're in good football shape, but man, you've been off the field for 2 years. You don't have much more time before it doesn't matter what type of shape you're in, you can't play NFL football. You need to get this shit done with, put it behind you, let the owners cool down, and then get back in the league and start playing. Or otherwise you're screwed. You're never going to play again, and goodbye any chance at real money again. That's where I think this came from. Someone smart got in his ear and was like, dude, end this. If you really want to play football again, you got to end this because it's almost to a point where you can't do it. It doesn't matter what type of shape you're in. You haven't been in the league for so many years. That's it. You're going to be done. So that's where I think it really came from.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, like you said, what you might disagree or agree with what he did and his message, and I don't really take any issue with him expressing his views. But the guy was good enough to play in the league, but what people just fail to understand is, look, if I'm an NFL owner and I have a guy who I could sign who's definitely maybe not good enough to start, but definitely good enough to be on my roster, if half my fans are going to support him, great. But if it's going to alienate half my fans and they're going to really, really despise me signing that player, it's a bad business move. I can't do that. This is not a charity. It's a business. And, he had the skills to plan an NFL roster. And at the time, it just, no owner was going to do that. I think it was painfully obvious. I wouldn't have done it. But, listen, now that this thing's over and this is kind of getting pushed aside a little bit, I could potentially see him being on a roster. I don't think he was good enough to start on many teams, if any. I mean, probably the Jets, to be honest. But I think he was good enough to be rosterable for sure.
Without a doubt. And I've said my stance with Cap has been longstanding. I don't disagree with his message because if anyone argues that there is racist cops and brutality in inner cities, then you're not just paying attention. You haven't been paying attention before social media. It's always been known that type of stuff has gone on. Where I think ownership and I think a lot of fans took problem wasn't necessarily with the kneeling, because dudes like Marshawn Lynch has been riding the exercise bike for the national anthem since they were forced to come out and stand since 2013. It's nothing new to protest the anthem. What people I think took issue with were the pig socks, which were highlighted, which was completely disrespectful. Even though he said he didn't disrespect cops, he wore socks with cops as pigs. And also his complete and total ignorance of Fidel Castro and Che Guevara and how he called them great people and leaders. And
he was wearing the shirts and everything.
He was wearing the shirts. And I think that's where people took real offense with. And I think that's where owners looked and said, like you said, yeah, I think he's a starter. I thought back in the day, he was still starter quality. He had an awful team in San Francisco towards that end. So I think I dubbed this dude as one of the next best things in football when he was there. I thought he was a hell of a quarterback. But coaches looked and said, is he Tom Brady? Is he Peyton Manning? Is he even Cam Newton? Is he a generational talent? No. So he's not worth this. If he's going to bring all this, he's not worth that. We're not going to win enough games to put all of his crap behind him. He's not LT. He's not one of those guys. So
I wholeheartly agree. He wasn't worth the baggage because there was a lot of baggage. No matter how good he wasn't worth everything that came with him. And I don't know. I would like to see him play again just for the fact that, can he play? Can he play? Let's answer the question. Let's see if somebody gives him a shot. But time will tell, I guess.
Seems like John Elway's in that wanting to take guys that might not be able to play. But I digress. We're going to talk about more teams with baggage. Our favorite team, the Jets, who seem to have more baggage besides anyone but the Cleveland Browns, who might be turning it around before us, sadly enough.
Sadly enough is right.
But first off, what are your impressions of Adam Gase and the staff that he's put together and his co-guys?
Look, so, when I was looking at this head coaching search, there wasn't really a lot of guys who I wasn't a big McCarthy guy, and there wasn't a lot of names out there that really were appealing to me. The only thing I said to myself was, it's about time. We have to hire an offensive coach. It's an offensive league. You need an offensive coach, okay? I almost the opposite of the Rex Ryan thing, where it's like Rex Ryan just said, here, you take care of the offense. I don't want nothing to do with it. I wanted the opposite. Hire an offensive guy who knows offense. Hire a good, strong defensive guy who can run the defense, and let's see if that works. Because what we've been doing for the past 15, 20 years, hiring defensive coaches, obviously, I thought it was time for a change. So was I the biggest Adam Gase fan? Not really. But I'm going to give the guy a shot. I mean, he's an offensive coach. I kind of got what I wanted in that regard. So I think time will tell, but I'm willing to give the guy a shot, and I'm just not any more committal than that.
Definitely willing to give him a shot. And I look what he did in Miami, and everyone criticizes him. But the 1 year he had a healthy Ryan Tannehill, I think they won 9 or 10 games, and Tannehill had his best season as a pro. So I'm willing to give him a chance. And also, I love the fact that he was able to get Greg Williams. Greg Williams is the type of guy, I don't think he's going to come and be a defensive coordinator for a head coach he thinks is an idiot. So I'm happy we got a good defensive mind like Greg Williams. He's going to fire the guys up. He's old school. He did Bounty Gate. But I like that type of stuff. Now, in terms of what we're going to do in the offseason, Mike Maccagnan is definitely on the hot seat. This is his make or break year. If he doesn't give Gase the tools to make a good football team, I think Maccagnan's going to be fired. What would you like to see him do for free agency in the draft?
Yeah, so just real quick, one more thing on Gase. There's a lot of coaches, by the way, as we know, who didn't really have too much success the first time around and really turned it around their second job.
Belichick,
for example. Right? But even that said, he didn't have a terrible run in Miami. Like you said, Tannehill was hurt for a lot of the time. And then, the other side of my point with the hiring a big offensive guy and let someone run the defense, that is Greg Williams, right? So that's exactly what I was looking for in terms of setup. So we'll see what happens. But like you said, they have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of needs to fill here. I don't even know where you start, man. I would love to see a pass rusher, to be totally honest. We haven't had, when John Abraham was the last big time pass rusher the Jets have had.
Yeah, Johnny Abraham, Sean Ellis, that tandem right there.
Yeah, so we've had certainly good linemen since then, but nobody who could rush the quarterback. And being that it's such a passing league, you got to put pressure on the quarterback. How do you beat Tom Brady? You have to put pressure on him, right? No quarterback is a Hall of Fame quarterback if he's getting rushed and sacked, multiple times a game. Okay, so that's the first thing. I would definitely go address that need. But man, we got a lot of holes to fill. You got your franchise quarterback, which was the pick I liked, by the way, with the Darnold kid. You got to protect him now. So we're gonna need help at tackle on the offensive line. Do you address that with your top 3 pick, or do you go defense? Not for me to say. You got to address both of those. And then we have no skill positions either, right? We need a big time wide receiver. We need a running back. Crowell had a whatever kind of year,
and Crowell's out now, so.
Yeah, and who am I forgetting? Bilal Powell, right? He had a neck injury. I think he's going to be a free agent or something too, right? He's
Bilal
out.
Powell, I think, is going to be a restricted free agent. Then we have Elijah McGuire. We have Trenton Cannon. So we have a little stable but unproven guys besides Powell, basically.
Yeah, so you need skill positions, but I would address my first 2 things would be offensive line and a pass rusher.
I couldn't agree more. I think that with the money we have, I think we can go on the market in free agency and grab ourselves a pass rusher. I would like to go the Dallas Cowboys route in terms of what Jerry Jones did for 4 years, where he just got the best offensive lineman at each position in the first round. And look at that line now. That the Cowboys offensive line is unbelievable. Zeke Elliott is great. Don't get me wrong. The guy would be a 1,000-yard back every year regardless. But he has 2-3 yards every single time he touches the ball because that line is so good. I want that. I missed the DeBrickashaw Ferguson, the Matt Slauson, the Nick Mangold, or you just plug guys in, Jumbo Elliott, Kareem McKenzie. Jets had great offensive linemen for near 2 decades, really good lines, and all of a sudden our line play hit a tank. So I want that back.
Can you even name someone on our line? I was thinking about that while you were talking. Brian Winters, I think, he's on the team still, right?
Yeah, Brian Winters is good, but he's not great.
Right. But I couldn't even name another lineman on our team, to be totally honest with you, right now. That's how decimated it is. When it used to be they were household names to a Jets fan.
Kelvin Beachum, I think, is still there. We just got rid of Spencer Long, and then he went and signed with Buffalo. We were thinking of re-signing him back as a guard at a cheaper price, but yeah, I think that the first and foremost, you need skill guys, obviously. We definitely need a pass rusher. I think we can get those. I think Golden Tate's out there. He'd be a really nice compliment as a free agent. I like what Golden Tate brings. You could probably find more proven running backs in free agency. I just think that you probably want to bring in a good lineman with free agency, but I would either love to see them take a good offensive lineman at 3 or trade back, get more assets to where that offensive lineman you want is going to be. I really want them to go offensive line in the draft.
Let me throw a question back at you. And
yep.
I don't have a strong opinion about it because I'm very conflicted. What are your thoughts on Le'Veon Bell? I
love Lev. I think anyone with talent, I'm in a weird road, and not even a weird. Feel like I'm an old man when I talk to certain people now, because I think in the age of social media, we notice just how much of divas these dudes are. But go back. Let's look at Michael Irving. Let's look at our very own Jets, Keyshawn Johnson. Let's look at, Freddie Mitchell when he had one good game for the friggin' Eagles. And even running backs, certain running backs back in the day. All these dudes that are super talented like this, they are divas. They are needy. They all want the ball. And if they weren't that way, they wouldn't be as good as they are. So guys like Antonio Brown that everyone has a problem with, he has an attitude problem. Chris Carter calling out dudes, Keyshawn Johnson calling out dudes. The only men that can probably sit there and say they did it quietly and did it right was like Jerry Rice and Tim Brown. Everyone else, they were all divas. So the way I feel about Le'Veon Bell, if we can get Lev at a reasonable price that he's not going to break the bank, bring him in. That's a generational talent.
By the way, I didn't know if we were doing video or audio, so right now I'm wearing my Curtis Martin jersey, talking about guys who did it quietly.
Yes.
But, you know what? Everything you're saying is absolutely true, but there is a possibility that Le'Veon Bell comes in here and he's nothing but a problem. But he is so good. He's so good that I would probably be inclined to go for it and just cross my fingers and hope it works out. If we can, like you said, if we can get him for something reasonable, we have the cap space to do it. I would probably lean towards doing it, but I definitely have my reservations.
Yeah, if he's a problem that can get 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving, I'd be cool with that.
Fair enough.
I'm okay with that. So we're gonna jump ship here. I'm done being depressed about our Jets, because even thinking about what our Jets are going to do is still going to depress me, because we're still the Jets, and I still going to figure out a way we're going to screw this up. So we're going to go to another team who likes to screw everything up. Your Mets. I'm a Yankees fan. I know what success is. You're a Mets fan. You know torture. You have a new GM who was a basically on the rise Scott Boras-like agent before this, Brodie Van Wagenen. He's had a lot of bravado, but I think he's made a lot of decent moves that people aren't really noticing because of his bravado. How do you feel about Brodie? Do you like him?
I was a little weird about hiring the agent, right? I thought that was kind of a weird thing. I knew that was going to be a conflict of interest in certain places. But then I was thinking that's going to be the first year, maybe 2 years. And if he's really the right guy for the job, we'll deal with that. And so, again, it was the sort of thing where you just hope that they made the right decision. But as we know, the Mets and Jets franchises don't often do that. So
nope.
The one thing I liked was the guys, I think you just said it, a lot of decent moves. And it seems like that's what he's done in the offseason. And I'm cautiously optimistic for this guy. He's been active, which I really appreciate as a Mets fan. He seems like he's got a vision in mind, and he seems to be trying to put that on the field. I remember hearing his first interview with Francesa, and Francesa, who just loves to make fun of the Mets, was really giving him unfair questions and kind of being a little bit hostile. And Brodie took it, and he came back at him. And, a week later, he makes the big Cano trade. And I'm like, all right, maybe this guy's on to something. He's out there making moves. And I really actually feel pretty good about the team they're going to put on the field this year. I think they can be competitive. Are they going to be favorites to win the NL East? Probably not. Would it be outside the realm of possibility for them to be, high 80s, low 90s win team? It's definitely possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. And I think that's, about as good as could be expected, considering where they were just last year.
Without a doubt. Their starting rotation is key, their health. But I'm happy you mentioned the Cano trade, because I love that it's called the Cano trade. Cano had very little to do with that trade. Cano was the money thrown in, the salary that needed to be taken in order to get one of the top two closers in the game for the past 2 years in Diaz. That was the move to me that said Brodie's legit and Brodie's serious. Getting Diaz as a closer, then re-signing Familia to be your setup guy, you took a bullpen that was god-awful last year and just turned it into a pretty damn good back-end bullpen already. Just with bringing those two guys in there. I love what he did there. I like Lowry. And I also like the realism that he has, too, saying, hey, we're not players for Harper. That's it. I don't care what anyone says. He knows his market. He knows what's going on. Now everyone's looking at the Giants possibly getting in. And I hear Mets fans going, the Giants can get in and get interviews. Why can't we? Well, the Giants are World Series contenders almost every other year. So they're not in the same realm. But I really like that trade that Brodie did. And I really think that he can make this Mets team good. I think he has a realistic approach, but he also has a lot of bravado. I like that about him.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of moving pieces, right? Because I think, and by the way, one of the best things I think he did was not make the JT Real Muto trade and give up too much. Instead, he went out and got Wilson Ramos, who, for my money, is almost as good. And we didn't have to give away pieces to get him, right? So you got Wilson. I mean, we're pretty set up to center, right? You got Cano and Rosario at short and second, Wilson Ramos catching. And then it's like, who knows what else is going on? Because you got, who do you got? You got Nimmo, Conforto, Lagares, Jeff McNeil's going to play outfield.
Cespedes probably isn't going to play, so you kind of can't bring him there. I don't think he's going to play a single inning this year.
I can't count on him. Listen, I'm optimistic that he'll make it back for the end of the season, but in all likelihood, I think you're right. And then so you got all those guys juggling in the outfield, and then you got between first and third base, you got the Peter Alonso kid coming up. Fat Dom Smith hopefully got himself in shape. He's going to play a little bit.
You got to give up on Dom Smith, man.
I'm not a fan. I think Peter Alonso is the real deal, though. You still have Todd Frazier on the team, and then again, you got Jed Lowry, switch hitter. So these guys pretty much all these guys can play first and third. I mean, Peter Alonso is a legitimate first baseman, but Frazier could play both. McNeil's probably going to end up playing a little bit at third base. Jed Lowry, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys get moved around and what they end up doing with there. But like you said, this team, it starts with the pitching. You have 4 stud starters. Forget DeGrom and Syndergaard. We all know that DeGrom's a Cy Young winner. And would you be so shocked if Syndergaard came out this year and won a Cy Young? Nobody really would. But it's the other two guys. Zach Wheeler, who finished last year, I think 11-1 or 10-1 in his last 11 or 12 starts.
Yeah, he really turned it on in the end. He looked like the old Zach Wheeler that actually had some control of his fastball, which is scary.
And so what are we going to see this year? Is it going to be the guy who, who's been up and down over the past couple of years, or is it going to be the second half Zach Wheeler from last year? If he's really turned the corner and those are your top 3 pitchers, and then, oh, by the way, throw in Steven Matz on top of that, the lefty, dude, that's one of the top pitching staffs in the game. Forget about NL East or National League. That's one of the top staffs in the game.
So the tough part as a Mets fan, and I know, everyone becomes attached to their guys, but just seeing the way Brodie works, there's a good chance that Wheeler or Matz aren't in a Mets uniform come trade deadline. Because just looking at the division right now, Atlanta and Philadelphia are probably, especially if Philly gets Harper, they're neck and shoulders. I think they're the 2 favorites. The Nats are still a good team. The Mets are in the mix, but they're probably closer to 4th than 3rd is where I'm going to put them without seeing the product on the field yet, just on paper.
That's fair.
If they are sitting in that 3rd, 4th, probably not getting in the wild card, I could really see Brodie, if Wheeler's pitching well and looks like second half Wheeler, pulling the trigger and getting assets for him. How would you feel about something like that? Because I just feel like that's something that the Mets should do. I feel like they should have traded DeGrom last year and got stuff for him. But how would you feel if you guys kind of are on the outskirts of being in playoffs, but no, you aren't going to win a series type of deal?
Yeah, I would say that for me, Matz and Wheeler, well, more Wheeler than Matz, are definitely on the table if the season's not going anywhere. I actually disagree. I was not for trading DeGrom last year, especially because where he was, with his contract, he still, after last year, had 2 more years of team control. And that's a whole other issue we could talk about too with him and his.
We're going to bring that up next.
But yeah, so I wanted to keep him long term. Wheeler, I could see that. But you got to remember something too. In 2015, when the Mets did go to the World Series and they traded for Cespedes, right before the break there, they were a 500 team the first half of that year, with the exception of like a 10-game run in April where they went like 10-1 or 10-0. And so they ended up, being 10 games over 500. But that was a very ordinary team until he got there, right? So if this team can just tread water this year until Cespedes comes back, or they can make another positive move and bring somebody else in if they're a little bit over 500, that's why I'm saying I could see them creeping up on 88, 89, 90 wins, if things go right. Now, if they're a few games under 500 or they're not really in the mix, then I think what you're saying is probably more correct, that maybe Wheeler goes and you bring back a nice package, at the break, and I would totally be fine with that as well.
So we're going to talk about DeGrom. They avoided major arbitration, and they came up with an agreement of $17 million, which is a $10 million raise for Jacob DeGrom. Everything seemed okay, but then DeGrom kind of made a comment, basically kind of making it seem like he was unhappy with the 17, wanted more, and has to go talk to his agent about possibly putting some self-restrictions on. I heard some guys, I know Francesa didn't agree with it. I know a lot of the morning show guys didn't agree with it. I don't think anyone agrees with it besides him. I know he's 31. I know he wanted more money. I know he's looking at this as probably when he hits free agency, he'll be like 34. Probably not going to get a huge deal. This is probably the highest he's going to get is 17, maybe 20 at his next one. How do you feel about him possibly putting restrictions on himself as a fan? Does that, like, what does that even mean?
Dude, this made my blood boil. How, dude, this is unbelievable that the guy has the balls to say this.
First of all, one Cy Young, and now you're going to sit there and he was a good pitcher before this, had the possibility of being great, had his first great year last year, like truly great.
And listen, great. It was probably a top 15 pitching season of all time.
Yep.
I totally get that and respect it. But guess what? This is the way the league is set up, right? This is the collective bargaining agreement that, for the union that you're a part of. Okay. This is how it works. And oh, by the way, you're getting $17 million. You're not getting it. You're getting $17 million and you signed the paperwork. If you really didn't want it, you shouldn't have signed.
And I know, quickly, I know Francesa gets on the Mets, but he brought up some good points today. I don't know if you listened to him. Kershaw in year 4 was getting $11 million. Scherzer was getting somewhere like 7 or 6. And like Kershaw too went from like 11 million to 6 to 17. Then he got his 32 when he hit his free agency.
Yeah.
So he's looking at it going, you are one of the highest paid guys in terms of your talent level in year 4 in what you got. I don't understand his thinking, even besides maybe because he's 31. I think that's where he's at.
That's exactly the difference, that he's a little bit older. And look, it's not anybody else's fault other than his own that he did what he did at the age that he did it. Yep. If I don't even think he'd be having this problem, or he would be making a fuss if he was 24 years old right now and he knows he was getting paid at some point. And he's a little worried probably because I think he's going to be 30 or he's going to be 31.
He is 31. But the thing is, if he was 24 years old, they would have never thrown $17 million at him. He maybe would have gotten 9 or 10. Right. So it's like, it's all relative. I think the Mets were kind of generous in going, yeah, we know you're 31. You had a great year. You gave us a Cy Young. We'll agree on 17.
And look, he's got another year of team control. This was for next year's conversation, right? Not last year's or this year's. He's getting his $17 million. He's going to get a deal at some point, but now is not the time. The Mets did what they were supposed to do. He signed the paperwork, $17 million. Let's go. You go play. And even if he wasn't happy, listen, we all know he wants to get the big contract. You don't come out and say, I'm going to talk to my agents about managing my innings. What a slap in the face to all your fans. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm only getting $17 million. I didn't get my big $150 million contract, so I might dog it this year on you. How disrespectful is that? I mean, this is coming from a guy who's supposed to be a fan favorite, right? I've never heard a bad word spoken about the guy, and he comes out and says this. That really, really rubbed me the wrong way. I can tell you that.
Now, why do Mets players do this? Matt Harvey, he was a darling for a little bit, ends up being a jerk. Jacob deGrom, like you said, didn't hear anything bad about him, and then all of a sudden this comes out. What the hell was up in the water in the Mets clubhouse?
And at least Matt Harvey was a polarizing figure, right? Some people loved him, some people hated him. The whole Dark Knight thing, he was trying to be too Hollywood. He rubbed people the wrong way, and so it was kind of fitting that he wanted his big deal, and people had mixed reactions about it. But deGrom has always been a good guy, right? Oh, and by the way, how did that work out for Matt Harvey? Imagine the Mets gave him a $200 million contract. How would that look right now?
You know what? Every time, this is where you can't blame the Mets. Last time they gave out a mega deal, which was like keeping up with the league, was Jason Bay. Look at how well that one turned out.
Who, by the way, just got inducted, I think, into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame or something like that I saw.
Well, it's good. It's good to be good at sports in Canada besides hockey. They're good at hocky. But everything else.
But you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, listen, after watching baseball for the last 15 years, I don't think I'd ever be in favor of giving these big 8-9 year contracts to anybody who's age 30 or older. Okay. Look at the second A-Rod contract, Pujols' last contract. They just don't work out. They really don't.
I don't think these mega contracts should happen at all. And I think that's what the league's trying to do. They're trying to do a kind of a self-imposed cap. 5-year deals. I think 5-year deals are kind of going to be the way to go. And then you look at the polar opposite of what's going on with deGrom. You look at a guy like Luis Severino right across the way. He just took a 4-year, 5-year, I think it is, with the 50-year option, $54 million year, basically $10 million a year, in a way where if he pitches well the next 2 years, it's in the CBA where the Yankees can go, we'll buy out the rest of your arbitration years and we'll renegotiate now. Yeah. So he sets it up so he can make $20 million the next 2 years. If he's an ace for the next 2 years like he has been, he can go and get that $25, $26, $27 million a year contract in 2 years.
It seems very favorable to me. And what happens if he goes out there and shits the bed or he gets hurt? He still gets his money, right? The team can't come back and say, well, we're going to tear up the contract because you suck. No, it only goes the other way in the player's favor.
Yep.
So I think inherently the system benefits the player in that regard. And here's DeGrom, complaining about it. But I think, listen, I could totally see what Severino did. He's got $54 million. He never has to worry about money or his legacy. He never has to worry about money again forever, right? So he locked it up, and he's got the upside of, ripping up the contract if certain things are, if the chips fall in a certain way. And I think that was the right move for him.
I think it was a great move. So all we conclude about this is the Mets can possibly be good. We'll probably get hurt again, and we'll probably suck again.
Yeah, every year it's about what can the Mets do, but what will probably happen. Yeah, they'll probably get hurt, and they'll probably go like 4-25 in July and be the same old Mets.
So speaking of hurt, we're going to go on to a guy who is basically like the Mets of golf right now, except for the fact that kind of, because the Mets were really good in the 80s, but Tiger was really good in the 90s. Tiger Woods, I think we're all fans of his. If anyone that says they're not a real fan of Tiger is a liar, because everybody cheered for Tiger in the 90s when he was doing his thing. You didn't have to like golf to like Tiger. He's back. Golf is underway. They're playing really nice areas right now where we're all pretty pissed that it's sunny, beautiful 70s. They can go to hell. What do you feel about Tiger this year? He was close to winning a few majors last year. He won some tournaments. I think he won one or two tournaments last year.
He got the first one. Yeah, at the end of the year, he won his first one.
And in terms of his top tens in plays, he had one of his better all-around seasons last year than he's ever had, minus not winning the majors. Is he going to get a major this year? What do you think?
No, I don't think he's going to win a major this year. Will he win a major before he's done? I think he's got one more in the tank. Listen, it's just Tiger struggles off the tee. When Tiger's not going well, he can't really seem to keep the ball in the fairway. And there's just so many big hitters on tour that hit the ball a mile, that hit the ball straight. It's tough for him to compete in these major courses that are really long and really challenging off the tee, right? So he's got to be really, really locked in to be competitive on a major weekend. Can he do it? Yeah, I think he's going to find some magic at some point. Listen, to say he's going to do it this year, there's only 4 majors a year, as we know. It's a really tall order. It's hard to say anybody on any given year, whether you're the best in the world or not, is going to win a major. I can't see it this year, but if he's got 5-6 good healthy years left, I think he will get one at some point.
I can agree with that. I don't know about even 5-6 though. I think we're kind of getting on the real twilight of Tiger, but I'm also curious. I've been asking for years. I'm not necessarily looking for the next Tiger, but where's the next great player? You have a guy like Brooks Koepka who really only shows up for majors. I'm not going to consider you a great player if you can't even compete in other tournaments. He's awful everywhere else. Rory kind of fell off. Justin Rose, Jason Day, on and off. Dustin Johnson, we'll see how he comes back from his injury. He's the one guy that I think can really be a all-around great player. But there's so many guys that kind of show skills. They win a major and then they're gone. Is there a guy that you see right now that can become at least a consistent star to carry this torch for golf?
You know what? I really don't. I think Tiger was ahead of his time. I think now what we have is 7 or 8 Tiger Woodses. Maybe not quite as good, but they're 95% maybe of what Tiger was when he was coming up, whether it's, Spieth or McIlroy or Dustin Johnson. And it seems like these guys in the top 10, every couple months, they just trade spots, right? It's like nobody will ever be that far ahead of the pack again. I feel like the average level of play has kind of caught up to the best players. And so it's so much harder for one guy to stay on top anymore. I agree with you to the extent that somebody can do it. I could see maybe Dustin Johnson being that guy. But no one's ever dominated the way Tiger Woods has in our generation anyway, and I don't think anybody's ever going to do that again. I think instead, I actually think the game of golf is in just as good a place as it was when Tiger was the guy, as if, now there's, 5 or 6 guys that are, pretty much fan favorites. So no, I don't think there's going to be another Tiger like in that sense of the word, but I think the game of golf is doing just fine.
So a quick aside as we even, wrap up golf, because we're kind of wrapping it up there, but how spoiled have we been, our generation, yours and my age specifically, as sports fans? We got to see Tiger, Phil, Brady, Manning, Favre in all their heydays, Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin, Roger Federer, Nadal, all of these literal all-time greats. And kind of, I think tennis is in the same spot as golf is right now, where Federer, Nadal, Djokovic are still near the top. Marin Cilic, who are guys were great when we were young, where they're in that transition. But how spoiled have we been as sports fans? Even LeBron James, Kobe, I throw them in there too. We've been spoiled, have we not?
we've seen some really amazing things, and it's even more baffling that after sports has come so far, like, look at the average size of a football player 50 years ago compared to now. The game has been so refined, and we're still seeing people elevate their game above everybody else in such a way that it's just absolutely mind-boggling. And you freaking had to bring up Tom Brady, didn't you, Quest? I asked you not to do that specifically.
Tommy, listen, I was in such a weird spot this Super Bowl because do I hate Tom Brady? Of course I do. I'm a Jets fan. Do I respect the hell out of him? Yeah, you have to at this point. And I was at a weird spot where if the Rams won, cool, I was happy. But I was not mad about seeing history. I've come to a point where I'm never mad about seeing history. Like, people hate LeBron James. What the hell's the point of hating LeBron James? The guy's a top 2 player ever. You can't argue that. And it's like, why get mad at looking at greats that you could sit there and turn to your kids and say, when they're talking about, oh, this guy, yeah, I watched him. Even our kids are going to talk about Tom Brady. He's going to be in the history books. And as much as we're going to put our hands on our faces, we're going to be like, yeah, that guy was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, I hate him, but I can't get mad about seeing history.
Listen, no doubt about it.
But I hate him.
But I hate him. Going back to your question, I mean, we're really blessed to see so many great athletes. And Michael Phelps was another guy that popped into my head while you were saying that.
Yep.
It's just, I think every generation kind of has that. I mean, we never got to see Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, and, Joe Montana was before my time, and, Roger Staubach and all these guys. But I think it's on a little bit of a different level now. I think just because the superstars are elevated through social media to such a high level, it's like, it's an amazing thing. But some of these sports accomplishments are really crazy. And yeah, of course, we're going to be telling our kids one day about that we watched Tom Brady, but I'm always going to say, Tom Brady, you call him the greatest of all time, maybe, definitely the best winner of all time, best career of all time. But for my money, the best person to ever actually play the position of quarterback was Peyton Manning. Nobody was more skilled at playing the position. We'll see the greatest of all time. It depends how you define that term. If you want to talk about rings, yeah, then it's probably Brady. But for my money, best skilled at playing that position, got to go Peyton Manning.
You could definitely make the argument there, but yeah, but the GOAT is Tom Brady, and that's unfortunate for us, but it sucks.
By the way, can you just talk about anything else? I can't end the podcast on Tom Brady.
The GOAT might be Tom Brady, but the biggest upset in the history of the Super Bowl is New York Football Jets. There we go. Highlight right there.
Thank you.
If the Jets didn't win that Super Bowl, this NFL wouldn't exist because the AFL-NFL merger wouldn't have happened.
Never would have happened.
There you go. See, that's our positive spin on being Jets fans.
Yeah, it's weak, but I'll take it.
On that note, we are closing out the podcast. My good buddy, Anthony Palmiotto, Odyssey Real Estate Group, is with me, and he's going to say goodbye. Any other plugs you want to give out to the people?
Yeah, no, just Instagram is AntPalm8. I post some boring stuff if you care to follow. And Odyssey Real Estate GRP.com is my business. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It was a blast. It was way too long coming. Again, this is the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30, Instagram SportsOpinions30. Search for us on Facebook. Go give us a like. And go search for it in Google, and you can find this podcast anywhere you can listen to podcasts at all, period. I'm not going to go run down it. I've run down it a million times, but just go search it, go listen to it, listen to this, spread the word. And if you want to be a guest, you can even ask Palm. He just texted me, said, let's do this. We did it. So that's how it is. Palm, again, thank you for coming on, brother.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, and everyone have a good one.